Have you ever wondered how bad a Formula One car can be when a 7-time world champion like Lewis Hamilton calls him the worst he has piloted? What if I told you that all this was revealed in just a practice in Canada, in a sequence that Ferrari would have wanted to erase from history? The 2025 Canada Grand Prix had all the ingredients to be a revealing appointment, and did not disappoint, although not in the sense that Ferrari had wanted. The practical day began with an ambiguous sensation. On the one hand, the team brought promises of improvements, adjustments that would supposedly respond to criticism after an irregular start of the season. On the other, the tension was evident in the paddock. Less than 15 minutes of the FP1 were enough for the SF25 to brutally exhibit its deepest cracks. Charles Leclerc, at the wheel of his Ferrari, faced curve 3 when a slight excess in braking caused a total loss of control. The car violently hit the wall, destroying the front and rear left suspension. But beyond physical damage to the car, the incident left an immediate emotional and operational scar. Ferrari lost not only his main pilot for the rest of the session, but also the possibility of collecting crucial data for the tuning. This accident left the team in a precarious situation. Without one of the two operational cars, all the responsibility of validating the adjustments fell to Hamilton. The atmosphere in the box was of silent discomfort, with engineers in a hurry, parameters that had not been able to contrast. When Lewis went on track, he did it with the intention of assuming that technical leadership that was so expected of him, but what happened was even more alarming. In the fork, one of the most demanding points of the Montreal layout, Hamilton lost control of the SF25 and completed a spin that ended with him on his back to the trajectory, an image that symbolically defined the current state of the Ferrari project. Beyond the visual show, that spine was revealing. It was not the result of an aggressive maneuver or an unpredictable track. It was the direct consequence of a car with serious stability problems, unable to generate the minimum confidence necessary for a first-level pilot. Immediately, Hamilton expressed it by radio sharply, "The car is not manageable." His frustration grew with each lap. It was not only the erratic behavior of the car, but the total absence of predictability. The car did not respond to the orders that he, as a pilot, was used to giving. It was as if the SF25 had its own will, one that systematically opposed the driving style of the 7-time world champion. And the most serious thing of all was that this was not a surprise for Ferrari engineers. What Hamilton discovered in Canada was already known within the team for several weeks. In later interviews, British pilot himself revealed that both he and Leclerc had been dragging technical problems that deeply affected performance, but that the team had chosen not to make it public. This admission was almost as hard as the spin. During previous races, Hamilton thought that mistakes and lack of rhythm were his fault. Only after practice in Canada and a subsequent technical evaluation, he was informed that there were indeed structural defects in his unit, which brought it souring relief. Knowing that the problem was not its piloting was comforting, but it also implied that it was caught in a defective car, without clear solution. If there is a technical element that has put on their knees to the SF25 project since the beginning of the season, that has been the braking system. It is not exaggerated to say that this component, traditionally invisible to the casual but fundamental fan for the pilot, has become a recurrent nightmare for Lewis Hamilton. In his own words, Ferrari's brakes behave like a lottery. The simple idea that such a critical component is unpredictable reveals the level of lack of control that exists in the design and operation of the car. It is not just a bad adaptation to the Brembo brakes, different from the carbon industry that Hamilton used during his long career in Mercedes. The problem goes far beyond the supplier. The defect is in the architecture of the car, in how the forces are distributed when braking and how they interact with aerodynamics and the suspension of the SF25. From the beginning of the season, Hamilton has expressed that each session is like launching the dice. A brake game can work well in a batch, but by installing another exactly the same in the next session, the car behavior changes radically. Sometimes they do not stop with the same effectiveness, other times the initial bite is too abrupt, or even non-existent. This inconsistency not only compromises performance, but also sows the doubt in the mind of the pilot back after return. When Hamilton throws himself at a curve at 300 km per hour, he does not know if the car will respond as expected. And that kind of uncertainty is pure poison for an elite pilot. With each kilometer traveled, the trust that every champion needs to perform at the fullest is destroyed. The most alarming thing is that this pattern has not shown signs of improvement with the passage of the great awards. Despite the equipment to better calibrate braking systems and adjust the parameters, Ferrari has failed to establish a balance point. When Hamilton slows louder than Leclerc in high-speed curves, as usual throughout his career, The car responds with unexpected movements of the steering wheel, vibrations, and a feeling of loss of control. This is not just a subject of personal preferences. It is a design defect that penalizes the virtues of a pilot with an unmatched palm reese. In other cars, this style difference could be absorbed by a well-balanced brake system or a more indulgent aerodynamics. But in the SF25, any detour with respect to the ideal line of braking results in total destabilization. This situation has led Hamilton to have to rethink its piloting approach from scratch. He has been forced to imitate the style of Leclerc in certain areas of the circuit, previously releasing the accelerator and applying the brake more softly, even when this goes against his competition instinct. And yet, the results have been poor. The car still does not offer consistency, and the brake system remains a Russian roulette. For a pilot who built his career about the certainty of his sensations, this scenario represents not only a technical barrier, but a devastating psychological challenge. What should be an element of trust in the car where everything begins? The braking has become Hamilton's greatest enemy inside Ferrari. And without a clear solution on the horizon, this invisible problem threatens to be the most serious obstacle to its aspirations in 2025. It does not matter how fast it is in line, how much aerodynamic load they manage to recover, or how many successful strategies the team designed. While the brake system continues to be an unpredictable unknown, the SF25 will never be a champion. In technical terms, what Hamilton has reported is a loss of aerodynamic load in critical circuit areas, especially in high-speed curves and during transitions between braking and acceleration. At the engineering level, this indicates that the flow of air that passes over, below, and through the car does not behave as it should. There is no stable suction that keeps the car attached to the asphalt. The SF25 seems to enter and leave its optimal aerodynamic window randomly, as if it had blind points that disconnect the efficiency of the car without prior notice. This problem has multiple causes. The design of the flat background of the car, the badly calibrated air inlets, the interaction between the rear wing and the diffuser. Each aerodynamic component that works together seems to be slightly uncohylized. It is enough that one of those elements fails minimally so that the entire collapse aerodynamic platform. And when that happens, the car stops behaving like a precision machine and becomes a lottery of forces fighting each other. For a pilot like Hamilton, accustomed to surgical stability in his previous years, this type of failures is simply unacceptable. The direct consequence is that Hamilton has had to change his way of attacking the curves. You can no longer trust that the car will keep your support in the middle of the trajectory. It is forced to enter cautiously, leaving unnecessary margins, reducing the speed more than usual and avoiding sudden movements that can unleash unexpected survival. In essence, he has stopped driving to the limit. And in Formula One, that is like running with one leg tied. A pilot who does not trust his car is condemned to lose tenths in each sector, not to be able to defend or attack, to always live with the shadow of the error because of the material he has. This impairment of trust is aggravated because the information received by the pilot is not clear either. The car feedback varies depending on the track temperature, the pressure of the tires, the amount of fuel, and the level of aerodynamic load applied. There are cars that are sensitive, but the SF25 has crossed the line towards the indomitable. And if there is something that Hamilton has learned in more than 15 years of career, it is that a car that is not understood cannot be taken to victory, no matter how more the pilot has. The most ironic thing about this situation is that, on paper, Ferrari did not make flagrant conceptual mistakes. The SF25 was designed with solid aerodynamic principles, even inspired by successful McLaren elements of the previous year. But the execution has failed. What works in the wind tunnel or in the CFD does not always translate into track. And this car has simply failed to move its theory to practice. That gap between design and reality is the one that is drowning Ferrari. For Hamilton, each track session has become a patience test. It is no longer about finding tenths for pole positions. It is about surviving the car, of understanding which curve the logic will betray, to wait for not losing aerodynamic load just when I need it most. And the most tragic is that, while the team looks for solutions, time runs. Because in modern Formula One, each race counts, and if the car does not offer guarantees from the beginning, the championship leaves before it really begins. In this context, the unstable aerodynamics of SF25 is not just a technical problem. It is the most serious symptom of a project that, for now, has not lived up to its legend. What happened with the SF25 in Canada widely transcends the technical. It is no longer a car with design defects, braking problems, or unstable aerodynamics. What Lewis Hamilton has revealed with his experience and frankness is a much deeper crisis, A strategic alert that should light all alarms in Maranello. Because what is at stake is not just the performance of a car in one more season. What is in danger here is the prestige of an institution, the credibility of a project that promised to return Ferrari to the top, and above all, the confidence of one of the best pilots in history in the team's ability to compete at its height. Hamilton is not any pilot. You don't need to demonstrate anything. His decision to join Ferrari was not promoted by the need for a minor sports challenge, but by the desire to leave a final mark on the most iconic rack of motoring. He came with the promise of leading a resurgence, to contribute his technical experience, his discipline, and his legacy. But all that staggers if the base that has been delivered is corroded from its nucleus. What happened in Canada was no exception. It was the inevitable outcome of a series of signals that had been accumulating from the preseason tests. An unpredictable car, a defective brake system, and inconsistent aerodynamics. And most worrying, a team that has shown resistance to publicly recognize its errors. The SF25 can be corrected. Each car has room for evolution. But what Ferrari cannot afford is to continue acting as if there was no crisis. The message that Hamilton has sent is as clear as devastating. It cannot be won with a car that betrays you, but much less with a team that does not listen to you.